Good evening to you all, and welcome to the Once Upon a Time in Mosman exhibition.
It was the dear old amphitheatre. You've got a photograph of it there.
The amphitheatre, yeah.
Yes, and it was, I was only thinking in all the years that was a very exposed building. It was built by the Theosophists. Not the Japanese didn't come through the heads, nor did the Lord.
Because there was a con trickster, wasn't it, that told us all, I think, in the 20s that Jesus was going to walk through the heads.
Slap through the heads, up Balmoral Beach and onto us, you see.
And of course, I think the only two people that didn't turn up were Jesus and the con man. Is that right?
I think so. But actually, I think they probably had a caretaker. But I was thinking, graffiti hadn't been discovered then, and there was not a mark on that building. It was quite vulnerable otherwise. But I think I mentioned to you, Nikki, that one of our great pleasures, at one stage, they had variety shows when people were finding it hard to get work in the theatres. But also we had a mini golf course, which was one. Anybody here remember the mini golf course?
Well,
yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm
where the amphitheatre was.
Yes.
And of course, the building, that block of units that's there now, was a very unpopular building, wasn't
Yes, it was. I won't tell you what we called it.
I think it was called Morton's Folly.
That's right.
Right, Morton's Folly,
Yeah.
who was the mayor at the time.
That's right.
And no mayor today would ever build anything like that.
I'm glad you said that.
And Lopez Folly doesn't really have the same. And I know you've loved fishing over the years. Do you still fish much?
I don't fish here much anymore, although there's a little reef along from where we live, and it's terrific at the top of the tide to see the fish come along. And although I knew you were going to ask me about fishing, and I was just thinking about it before. I remember once when I was, maybe even a bit younger than Dylan, I was fishing for leather jackets on Taronga Park Wharf, and I had temporarily left home that afternoon. When you're a bit young, sometimes you think, it's not really working, I'm moving home. And this woman asked, this very nice woman came up and started to talk to me and said, "Are you fishing?" Well, obviously I was fishing. And she said, "Hey, catching?" And I said, "Well, I have to catch a lot because I have to catch them for all the kids in the orphanage." I mean, it was such a blatant lie and seeking for attention. I'm embarrassed to remember that.
You describe Mosman as a portal to adventure. What were some of the highlights?
Well, if you came from Nowra, you'd think Mosman was a portal. In fact, coming from Nowra, I quite look forward to going to New Guinea because I didn't think anything could be quite as bad as Nowra. And I was right. But I came here when I was 17 to train for 2 years in Mosman as a teacher. The only time I'd been here before was to go to the zoo. But not by elephant, by tram. And of course that was almost as big an adventure to a 10-year-old as going to New Guinea was to an 18-year-old.
Yeah. And of course tram down to Balmoral too, probably.
That's right, everywhere.
Yeah. So that was a highlight. The tram was a highlight too. The zoo, obviously the beach.
Well, the biggest highlight was just being amongst people of your own age from all over Australia who were in one place, training together, to go to somewhere very exotic and very exciting and very strange. And we spent 2 years in Mosman getting increasingly excited about this wonderful journey we're going to make to a very splendid place.
And are you still in Mosman? Did you leave after this? I mean,
Yes, well, nearly. I'm now in Cremorne, which I know doesn't qualify me, but you can always hope to come back, can't you, mate?
And of course Mosman played a big role in your life as well. You mentioned, you even remember Monterey boarding house, I believe, at Mosman Bay.
Well, they used to slap some of us in there when we arrived from the country until we were smart enough to find out that there were better places in Mosman to be. Not today, I might add.
No.
It's the most splendid apartment block now.
And I think spent many years as a very flash restaurant too, didn't it?
That was probably after my time.
Well,
at the time it was a fairly cheap boarding house.
Okay.
£4.05 a week, bed and dinner. Find your own lunch. Yeah.
Now, you are both Mosman High boys, just a few years apart. When you were at Mosman High, it was very different, wasn't it?
Well, the main difference was it was not a co-educational school. For two things that I always remember about it, there were no girls and there were no art teachers. Girls you could only see in the tuck shop. When you went at, kind of calling it half time, that's how much I remember about school. I mostly graduated from gazing out the window. But at half time, you could go and get some food, and there'd be food in the foreground and parts of girls in the background. And that's one of my memories of Mosman High.
But no art classes?
No art class. And it's a terrific art school now, and they have absolutely fantastic art teachers. But for some reason, they didn't think it wasn't important to teach art to boys, which I'm glad to say it's changed dramatically.
Did that spur you on? Did that really make you even want to be an artist more?
The really annoying thing is that I convinced them that I could at least go to the library and look at books about art, but I had to make a choice of either doing that or doing sport, which is really boring because I really love to do sport. I wanted to drop algebra because I can't still understand where algebra fits in the world, and it would have been very, very much better for me to have done sport and look at art books.
But you did eventually get to an art school, because the rest is history.
Well, I left Mosman. I got a special exemption to leave school when I was 14 and a half to go to art school, because that's really all I was ever very good at and all I ever wanted to do.
And you obviously have lived in Mosman for many years now, but you have a special love of, obviously, of Middle Harbour. You've painted Middle Harbour for many years, but what is it about Mosman that makes it so special for you?
Look, both Judy and I have had the opportunity to travel extensively around the world. This year we travelled a lot. We were in the Russian Far East, in Petropavlovsk, in strange places. I have never found a place to live that is as complete as Mosman.
One of my fondest memories was the Mosman CCC, which was the Mosman Children's Cinema Club, and it ran on a Saturday morning from 9 o'clock till about 11. And we used to see a feature movie. Every third week was a Shirley Temple movie. And we used to have a special Saturday morning when they put on 20 cartoons. Unbelievable. Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse to Tom and Jerry. And every time you attended there, you got a stamp. When you got 10 stamps, you got a badge. And you know, we were running around with these badges and thought we were absolutely fantastic. But it gave us an appreciation of what the movies was all about.
Where was it?
The theatre manager was Ken somebody else. He was known as Uncle Ken, but at half-time or at interval, they put on a show.
Whereabouts?
At the Kinema Theatre, where that famous Mosman RS club is now.
Oh, okay.
You know, the famous Mosman RSL. But it was there, absolutely wonderful. But it's one of the fondest memories that I've got, and it built up such a great friendship amongst all the kids there. It was unbelievable. And one particular Sunday after, I think it was a Don Winslow or John Wayne movie, we got this issue of Army helmets. And you couldn't drag those off our heads for what it was worth. We put them on one day, and we thought we were the big shots, and I think it would have been just after the war. And we paraded with these things. We had makeshift guns made out of broom handles or bits of, pineapple boxwood. And we marched all the way up to Middlehead. The blokes led us through, and we stood on Middlehead, and we started throwing rocks in. We reckoned we absolutely blew up 20 submarines, 20 battleships, but I still remember that day. We paraded through Mosman being cheered by everyone. But you know, growing up in Mosman in the 40s was absolutely fantastic. I'll always cherish it, and I hope some of you can remember those wonderful times.
Thank you.